Good morning, traders. I'm Dennis Dick.
And I'm Joel Elconin. Welcome to Pre-Market Info.
Tight range here overnight again. We were tight yesterday. We're tight here again this morning.
Yep, two closes right here at the 5, 12, 15, 50, 513 area. High closes of this monster move since the beginning of the year. Major resistance still up at the Globex high from yesterday at 1517. We did break through Monday's low during the overnight session, 1509.75 down to 0850, but that's your number on the downside.
The ranges just keep getting tighter and tighter here. What you have, like this is just what this market structure has. You have a lot of high frequency market makers that basically, when it gets really tight, they get more competitive and they start quoting more aggressively on the individual stocks, trying to scalp their 1 cent or just capture their rebates, and they make the market get tighter and tighter and tighter until there's some news, and then they back off, and then you can actually get some volatility. So when there's really not much happening, we're coming out of earnings season, they get more aggressive because they're fighting to get those pennies, they're fighting to get those rebates, quoting more aggressively, and that's why you see these ranges get tighter and tighter and tighter. So until we get a catalyst, I'd expect more of the same, more of a tight range. Facebook here, Joel, is actually breaking down this morning through a key $28 level. Bernstein downgraded after the close, and they see limited upside, slower than expected mobile ad revenue growth.
Yeah, that major support at the $28 level that held in three of the last five trading sessions. They come out overnight with the downgrade. Took it down pretty good in the after hours. In fact, we got it down as low as 27.21. Getting a little bounce up here up to the 27.65 where we're currently trading. But I think the patient traders are going to wait perhaps till we get back up to that old support at 28. That is going to be fantastic
Yeah.
resistance. If you're looking to initiate a short today in Facebook, 28 could be the level. Coming on the downside, if this thing really goes into reverse, we have a gap to fill back from the end of last year at the 27.42 to 26.99 level. But a lot of these times you get the movement in the pre-market and then it just kind of waffles during the day.
Yeah, it was really winding up here for the last five trading sessions. We traded between the $28 and $29 level, and like you identified, we had three lows near that $28 level. So it's just a classic technical breakdown here. We are bouncing up, trading 27.65, but I've got to think there's going to be some nervous longs, and if this thing starts getting to the 27.90s, I think you're going to find sellers. I don't see this thing bouncing back and starting to trade back up above 28 again. I think you're going to find some resistance here and maybe a follow through as and it could possibly drift lower. Michael Kors, wow, this stock is up enormous this morning. They beat big time, 64 cents against estimates of 41, raising full year guidance, doing everything right over at Michael Kors. Stock is trading up 62.80 right now on almost a million shares, so we are up over $5.50 on Michael Kors from the 4 o'clock close.
Yeah, this is one IPO that's done extremely well. Perhaps people are associating the name with bear or something. I don't know why the stock is just going so crazy, except
The
for the
retailers have been hot.
crazy. Yep, yep. 64 even has been the high in the pre-market. Since that 64 level, we've come back to 62. Really, the only levels that I can give you here in these stocks is that pre-market high of 64 and then the low of 62.
Similar stock, Fossil, actually, they are trading up here as well. And me and Joel were trying to figure this out from the report, FOSL. Stock actually beat by a penny, 227 versus 226, but it looks to me like they're actually lowering full year guidance. It's 585 to 615, but estimates were up at 613. So the majority of that range is actually below where the estimates were. So interesting enough, this stock did pop up. Well, actually, you can see, I guess initially it did sell off and then it popped, but now it's pulling back here a bit, trading 109.06. So it is up another dollar, but this isn't a great report really from what I can see.
Yeah, I think people construed it both ways. Hit 113.60 in the pre-market. That was a high. We pulled back to the 108 level. The 108 is going to be your minor support. After that, things open up, get into yesterday's range. I mean, this stock has been all over the map. It's had a major rally since coming up to 88. Still, just looking at these tops here, a couple tops here at the 107.85, 108 level. That kind of coincides with the recent pre-market low. So if you are playing this from the long side, break below 108. You may want to look for an exit point.
Big stock reporting one of our top components in the S&P, Coca-Cola stock trading down a nickel right now. They beat by a penny, 45 cents versus 44. Stock actually got up, trade a little bit after they reported here just around 7:30 this morning. They trade up to 38.90, but then they started drifting back down. I tell you, there is major resistance here in that 38.90 area. We topped out there 3 days ago, drifted, just snuck above $39 just to shake out a few people, 39.06, but then the next day we only popped up to 38.94. I'm starting to see some institutional resistance form there again in the whole 39 area, so I think that'll give you some initial resistance. If we can take out 39, maybe we can move higher, but that's the big number on the upside.
Yeah, looking at the range, you had 39.06. That was your high from a couple days ago. Now that we're trading lower in the pre-market, probably even get more offers at that level. Keeping an eye on the low that you had from yesterday, 38.41. You did sneak through it in the pre-market. I would still use that as support. Using yesterday's parameters in a big old stock like this would be pretty good. You break below 38.41. You could be heading towards the $38 level. Things look kind of gappy between 38 and 38.50.
Avon products trading up pretty solidly here this morning as well. With the adjusted earnings, when you take out some one-time items, 37 cents versus 27 cents. So they beat when you take out the adjusted number. Stock trading up here towards some major resistance. Well, actually breaking out through some major resistance. We had some highs in the 1753 area from a few days ago, and if we go back to October, we had multiple highs in the 1750 area. So this is a little bit of a breakout here for Avon products. I guess we shouldn't be surprised because Estee Lauder, didn't they report great numbers there just a week or two ago? And they got a good lift off. But the only thing with the Estee Lauder, they got a good lift off the earnings and then they pulled back. So if that's any indication of what Avon products is going to do here, stock is trading higher this morning.
Well, they probably still wish they were taken out by I can't think of the name of that company. I wanted
Oh
to take them
yeah,
out at 20
$24
$23. Yeah, they kind of regret
last
that.
year.
Looks like someone wants to sell some stock here at 18. We've hit 17.97 twice here in the pre-market. This is a 4% move for Avon products. I mean, that's a lot of $3 and $5 makeup brushes and stuff. But so far, the move is holding up. Keeping an eye on 18. It's a nice round number. Looking at the dailies and Avon products,
Been
take
on a
out
run.
that resistance at 1750. Let's look at the weekly, and you have the big gap area between 21 and 17 after that deal fell through. So not a lot of resistance on the weekly in Avon
Yeah,
products.
you're getting into a breakout area, but like we said, bring up a chart of EL there too, just so we can look at what it did. Similar company, a little bit different model of structure of how they operate, but similar products. And that actually, see on the back there, just from 4 or 5 days ago when they did report earnings, it got that initial lift up to the $66 area, and now it's pulled back and it's trading at 61.78. So it was a breakout in Estee Lauder too, and that became a fake out. So I don't know. I'm just showing you what happened with a similar stock. They operate a bit differently though, so we can't hold them right to the
Ding
same.
dong, Avon.
But you never know, so you got to watch out on some of these breakouts for some fake outs. Barclays actually cutting some jobs here this morning. Stock trading up.
And that's a good
BCS.
thing, right?
Yeah,
When you
BCS.
cut
That's the old
jobs.
Bear Stearns. There you go. BCS trading up significantly here. $20.09. They're cutting 3,700 jobs. I guess the market likes it when these European banks cut expenses, but this is a major breakout here for Barclays.
Yeah, just creeping up based on the activity overseas. 2009 has been the high here in the pre-market. Just kind of bumping up here against the resistance at 20. Was looking at the stocks of all these European banks, and they really have come out of the abyss.
Yep.
You did have a lot of resistance at the 1930 area. We blew through that. Have to go a little bit farther out here, take a look at the monthlies, and you see you had a double top in the monthlies here around the 2040 level. So that'd be a real heck of a move for Barclays. But as long as we hold 20, it's still poised to go north.
And remember, these things are trading actively in Europe right now. So this stock does have an active market. So you are seeing basically just what happens over here. It's just following the European action. So you have the high frequency intermarket traders that are basically just keeping the price in line with the European price. So they will make markets. They'll bid 2011 if the real price is supposed to be when it's adjusted at 2012, and they'll scalp their pennies. So that's basically what they do, keeping the price actually just in line. So what you're seeing here, and when you're looking at European pre-market pricing, it's a lot more significant, obviously, because it's moving right along with the European markets that are already trading right now. Boyd Gaming, Joel, that's getting downgraded to sell here at Goldman Sachs. It had that pop there, New Jersey regulation and stuff helping them out just a few days ago. Goldman Sachs doesn't see it helping as much as maybe some other people did. Stock trading down here this morning at $7.23. So if you go to the chart just from like 5 or 6 days ago, you can see it broke out from the $6.87 area, kissed up over $8, but now, yeah, that was yesterday actually, but now pulling back here on the Goldman Sachs downgrade.
Isn't sell like a bad word on Wall Street? When did
Goldman
companies
Sachs says
act?
it, they listen to it. That's I know it is. You
Yeah.
never usually see analysts downgrade to sell. You don't see it very often, so it is significant. When you see it, they usually do beat the stocks up pretty good because a lot of analysts they conflicts of interest, different stuff, but they don't like to downgrade to sell. And the other thing is you usually have 9 out of 10 analysts are giving buy. So when you downgrade to sell, you're really holding yourself out there. And if for whatever reason that stock continues to climb, they're going to center you out on something like CNBC saying that, well, you were the one analyst that was bearish this thing and it's been up 50% this year. What do you have to say for yourself? It's a lot easier to go with the herd where you have all the analysts basically, saying the same things. So if 9 out of 10, you can jump in with the herd and you don't risk getting centered out. But when you do downgrade to sell, you're taking a little bit of a risk. You can be
You
a
are. You
hero
stepping
or a
out.
zero. Hero.
671, 675, 681 were the lows that we hit in the pre-market. Getting a little reprieve up here, up to the 723 level. Have to look at the dailies here. The stock did have a big move. I like the 750 level. If we pop up to there, that was yesterday's low, 743, with the close around 748. Closed week, so that area is going to be good resistance in board gaming.
Masco reported earnings last night. Stock getting a nice lift. MAS stock trading up over $19 right now. 65,000 shares. So here's another stock that's breaking out to a new high on its move. 1855 was the high we had on the 4th. We're trading pretty significantly above there last night. You can see we got the good lift after the earnings report, but we have consolidated now here for the past 6 or 7 trading hours, really considering last night and this morning. So we're getting some good support there. That 1890, eh, Joel?
Yeah, 1935 is what we hit in the pre-market. 7% move here for Masco Corp. I mean, this is one of these moves where you have a lower price stock. They really jack it up in the pre-market. Probably some low-lying fruit in the book. Sellers at at different levels, all the way up to the 18. So. I'm a little bit skeptical of this move over the $19 level. If we don't hold 19, I think we could easily come back in and fill the gap, have a whole gap there down of $1. So I think Masco, I can't tell you to go out and short it, but heck, if I was long it, I'd be looking at this move. It hasn't moved, made quite a large move like this since the beginning of the year.
You wanted to highlight a couple stocks in the Big Ten, Exxon Mobil being one of them. You were talking about a wedge forming in Exxon Mobil. Yesterday's range, incredibly tight, obviously.
Crazy, yeah.
Crazy tight. We had a 50-cent range in Exxon Mobil, which is an incredibly tight range for a stock as big as Exxon Mobil. So interesting. We are looking like we're winding up on something there too.
Yeah, I mean, you got major resistance at the $89 level. You've had four consecutive lower highs. It looks like it's poised to take that out today. Good support at the $88 level. And over 89, things kind of open up. And just along those lines, I mean, look at the ranges you've had at Chevron Corporation the last few days. I mean,
Wow,
I haven't gotten filled within 60 cents sometimes in
so
this stock.
tight.
And had an 83-cent range yesterday.
Yeah,
This 115 level is critical.
this is tight. This is really wound up. We obviously had the nice run up in January where we were 109, ran all the way up into the 117 area. We pulled back, and now we're just consolidating around this $115 marker. I think the thing, if it can break up above 116, it's headed higher. If it starts to break down below that 114, that low we had there, 114.33 back on February 7th, we start to take that out. It's all air below there. So, obviously, you're going to just maybe keep playing this range until the stock makes a breakout or a breakdown here. But it is winding up, just like so many other stocks in the S&P. Many of these
And
stocks
the
winding up.
S&Ps and the S&Ps
Yep,
themselves.
everything is really winding up. Like even Apple. Let's look at Apple. It's a slow, steady climb, but the range was tight yesterday too. Even on a stock like Apple, it's been this slow, steady climb every day. But again, we are in a 4, 5, 6 point range on Apple, which is incredibly tight for this stock. And
Yeah,
we're
what I wanted to mention about Apple here is before the breakdown of earnings, you had a low at 483.38. We did get through it yesterday, getting up almost to the $485 level. Still have the large gap to fill, but interesting how the old support, which held the stock up before the earnings came out, turned out to be pretty good resistance within a point and a half. I guess in a $500 stock,
it's pretty close.
that's pretty close.
Yeah.
Yep.
Google too, Joel. That stock actually had a little bit of a pullback yesterday. Obviously, we had the Schmidt sale of the 2.5 billion or 2.5 billion dollars worth of stock, which was putting a little bit of pressure on the stock early. It started to bounce back a bit there later on in the day. Obviously closed fairly strong up at 782.42. I think you got to look at the high of the move, 786.67 from the day before. That probably is going to give you some resistance up there, but it was a good showing considering it was very weak earlier, Google, and then it actually closed fairly strong at the end of the day.
Yeah, the shorts took advantage of the news. They act like, like Schmidt was like selling the stuff at the market on the open, and tried to juice it down. I really wasn't a big believer in it. I didn't think it would get to that 3-day low of 765.50. All-time high close 785.37. All-time high 786.67. I guess the only thing you want to just take notice of this stock is just the tight ranges. They're tight ranges and moving up, but as you know so well, especially in a stock like this, boom, 30, 40 points in one day on the downside. So just be careful. Keep moving your sell stops up, and all those people dreaming like Kevin for 814. You gotta at this rate, it's going to take us 2 or 3 months.
We had a request to talk about Zynga here, and this stock has been on an absolute tear for the past 4 or 5 trading sessions here, Joel. Look at this chart. We've broken out. We broke out from the 275 area, and we basically get to 375 in 4 days. That is a crazy move. I mean, but it's hard to step and get in front of these moves. If you were doing that back at 320, 330 and thought it was crazy, now it's up at 370, 373 here in the pre-market. This stock is obviously in full breakout mode. Use old highs if you're trying to initiate a short, but when they take out and they start to make new highs, that's your cue to exit. You always want to have reference points. And this stock, we can see back in April of May last year, broke down from the $14
Woo!
area, got just destroyed. We are starting to run back up, and we're starting to get in a whole gap here. So there's just not a lot of reference points in this area. So it's very hard to pick a top on this thing if you're trying to short it. Is it going back to 14? Hell no. But it could, continue up to go into the 4 handle. Don't be surprised because there's just not that much in there. You had that big gap down day. It looks like back in July too. So obviously there's a lot of air in here, and your shorts are feeling that right now.
You know what I noticed? This got a big boost, and I mean I don't know how the closely they're correlated. Obviously, LinkedIn has a much better business model, but this it had decent earnings.
Yeah,
Number one, number two, the LinkedIn. So I guess the
that gives it a
whole
boost.
social
Sure,
network
sure.
kind of thing, gave it a boost. Now you're moving up, closing in on the $4 level. Nice round number like that. Some people that like bought it at like 2.5 are like, man, if this ever gets to four, I'm getting out. So you're gonna have some levels there. But just the way stocks come down and have wide open ranges between 4 and 5, at least this is based on a weekly chart. There's just not a whole lot in there.
Yeah, and you make a great point just saying if somebody got to the four, if they bought it at four, they're going to be willing to scratch it at four. Well, it never traded at four for very long. It traded in the five handle there for about a better part of a month, but the four handle blew right through it. So there isn't a lot of people that have that stock bought at four to turn around and say if it ever got up to four because that's where I bought it, I'm going to sell it. Nobody really bought it there. It just kind of blew through that level. So that's why when we say it can blow through a level on the downside, quickly blow through an area on the upside, you get that whole I want to break even on my trade mentality. Well, nobody needs to be at $4 to break even because nobody bought it there. They all bought it at five. So it needs to get up higher than that for them to sell it, or it needs to, obviously consolidate for a few days in a certain area, and then people start to have positions from that area. But that's why, you have these gaps, and that's why we always say when there's gaps in the charts or when there's areas where it didn't trade for very long, can move through those areas with ease because people don't have positions on from those prices.
375 yesterday's high. That's your first reference point on the upside. We got a question from Jason in Bloomfield Hills asking about Tesla Motors here. Now,
That was
I
interesting
know there was
yesterday.
an article. There was an article about a New York Times driver. He was driving and the car like broke down and pulled off the side of the road, and then they refuted it. And so there's been a lot of banner going on it. Looking at it, you've had a nice run in the stock. You hit $40 a couple days ago, 40 right on the nose, and have had a pullback. What I'd be looking at this stock is you've had four out of the last six lows right around the 37.60 area. So if you're trying to protect profits on the long side, I have my sell stop based in that area. How's it look to you, Dennis?
Well, you had the breakdown yesterday, obviously, on the news. CEO was on CNBC. I don't think he was doing any favors for himself on CNBC whatsoever. I watched that interview, and it wasn't good. He wasn't even, I just wasn't impressed whatsoever. I was like, it's not helping the stock at all, I don't think, right now, with his interview on CNBC. I think you look at yesterday's low. I think the stock, 37.50 is yesterday's low. It's trading up at 38.50. Look at yesterday's parameters. On a high end, it got up to 39.15. On a low end, it got to 37.50. I don't think it gets 37.50 today, but if it starts to drift down again and take out that 37.50, look out below because there's not that much. And if you look at it from a pure technical perspective, like you just looked at it, it was a breakdown day yesterday for the stock. Closed in the middle of the range, but still breaking down from this March that we've had. I mean, so many stocks have marched the entire year so far. We were down near $32 just in a week into January, and then we marched all the way up into the 40 area. Now we've pulled back, and I think that $40 now looms large for the stock as major resistance. If the stock starts to give back and takes out that 37.50 low, I'd be nervous. And especially when there's potential fundamental news that could hit you on different things like that. I'd probably lean to staying away from this one if I was long it.
Yeah, 39.95 is where it topped out in March of last year too, and you got to the $40 level. So your
Backed
your
up.
major your major resistance is well defined. The last stock that we're going to talk about and look at today, SJM. I believe that's Smuckers. Are people eating a lot of jelly out
It
there?
got an upgrade this morning, so it is trading a bit higher here. But wow, this is a consolidated tight range as well. But the stock trading up, look at $90.10 this morning. It is trading right up to the upper end of its range here from the last month. We have topped out multiple times in the $90 area. If you bring up the chart from the last month, Joel, you'll see what I'm talking about. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 9 tops in the 90 to 90.40 area. So when you talk about major resistance, you are coming into it this morning in the pre-market. And you keep in mind, this thing's only traded 2,100 shares here.
Yeah, a thin stock, could be a runner. Obviously, this is the highest it's traded in quite some time. So keep your longs above the $90 level. But I'm sure this is a pretty thinly traded issue. You fall below 90, and there's not going to be a lot of support until yesterday's range. Just real quickly, the market's getting a pop up here, 15.15 evens where we're trading. 15.17 was yesterday's high. That's your resistance point. Also, an adjusted high back in October of 2007 was 15.1950. So there are your areas to look at on the upside.
That's our show for today, folks. Have a great trading session, and we'll be back with you guys tomorrow.